Welcome back to the explanation of the Paperboy use case, this time part 2. Remember from previous time, part 1, this strategy map of Kepler Norton. And at the top level of it, you see some business values, and some of these will be used by the Paperboy as value criteria, or we call them planned values, to steer his business when he transforms his business from as is to be. And for that purpose we will use 3 values here. One is revenue at risk, that's the primary important one for him. Another one is hourly income, and also revenue. We now go to the VDMbee value management platform to show you how to create these plan values in a plan. Here you see the start page of our platform called My Plans. And this row here represents the plan of the Paperboy. And you see that he will transform his business in a couple of steps. We have the as is, called poor service, the as is phase, and a to be phase, called better service. And you can create more phases by clicking this pencil. You can also create more plans if you wish by clicking this pencil. Now we will go into this as is phase of this plan. We are still at the plan level here, but in the context of this as is phase. Here you can click the plan values, and here you see these 3 plan values defined. Hourly income, profit, revenue at risk. These are calculated and measured in certain ways. We will explain next time where that comes from. You can also see a graphical representation of it. On the left side, still at plan level, in the context of this same as is phase, you see the business model defined, called newspaper round. You can create multiple business models by clicking this plus, because in a real life situation, a business typically has multiple business models that can also be interacting with each other, as well as with models of partners. But in this case, we just define one business model. When we click it, we go into this business model. Here you see a graphical representation of it. You can turn it around. It's a cube, because a business model in our way is defined in 6 dimensions. And in all these dimensions you see certain elements defined in the business model. What's very important is all these elements are not just listed, but are interrelated in certain ways, which express how the business actually works and how value is actually created. And when you would click this button start here, you will go into the definition of this business model, but before that we will remind you a part of the previous session. On this side you can also see some values that are outcome values of this business model, and for the most part we will look into that next time again. For now we will look into this business model in more detail. You go back to the presentation, and you remember this value network from part 1. This value network is underlying the business of the Paperboy. The 3 participants, each having their roles: the newspaper company in the role of publisher, the schoolboy in the role of Paperboy, the readers in the role of subscriber, and all interacting by providing value or value propositions to each other. In particular, we are interested in this short session in the proposition paper round from the publisher to the Paperboy, and the proposition newspaper on the mat from the Paperboy to the subscriber. We now look into the app again, how to define these. And we click on that button indeed. And you see here how the business model is defined on multiple dimensions. The first one, the most fundamental one, is the participants. Here you define your network, your value network. We call it participant network here. You can have multiple networks also shared with all the business models to form, let's say, broader ecosystems of business models. But for now we focus on just one business model based on one network. This network defines who the business is, called here My Business. That is looking from the perspective of the owner of the business model. So the owner of the business model is the Paperboy. He talks about my business. He interacts in this context with customers and partners. His customers here are the readers in the role of subscriber, and his partner is the newspaper company in the role of publisher. Based on this definition, you go to the next tab, value propositions. And you can see here the value propositions listed, as we're also in that network graph. And in particular we will show you 2 of them. One is the paper round, who The newspaper company in the role of publisher offers what? Paper round to the schoolboy in the role of paperboy. And another one, maybe go down a little bit, newspaper on the mat, go up. The schoolboy in the role of paperboy offers what? The newspaper on the mat proposition to the readers in the role of subscriber. Okay, and so this information is in the app now. Now we revisit the strategy map again, and we will focus in particular on these two perspectives, the value stream and the customer. So at customer level, we are interested in the promptness of the delivery of the newspaper, and we can also measure the receiver satisfaction. The higher the promptness, the better the satisfaction, of course. We will also show you an app how that influencing goes. At value stream level, there where value propositions are received and delivered in the network, and when we deliver value propositions, we will show you in a minute, you also can do certain activities that create that value proposition we call value stream. Here is an example. So here you have the newspaper on the mat proposition, which is the result of two activities which are performed in this case by the paperboy himself. One is scale around, it's about some coordination work, and the other is execute around. It's about pedaling around and actually distributing the newspapers. And this execute round will create a value, which is the availability of the paperboy. So when you go back once to this strategy map, one second more to the strategy map, you see here these two factors, these two values. So there is at value stream level there is the supply of the newspaper company that comes by the proposition of the newspaper company to the paperboy, and there is the availability of the paperboy, which is influenced by that activity that the paperboy does execute around. These two influence the promptness, which goes with the proposition newspaper on the mat to the subscribers, and we will show you that in the app right now. And for that we go to this tab activities, and we select the newspaper, the value proposition newspaper on the mat. What do we see here? You see here, in order to pursue newspaper on the mat, who, the schoolboy in the role of paperboy, has to do what? Has to do execute around and has to do scale around. If you want to have more activities, you can create them by clicking just add another. If you want to see details, you can click a pencil, etc. But here basically you form a value stream, because these activities are there to deliver that value proposition. We call that a value stream. And here you see that availability is defined for the activity scale around. When you click here, for instance, this pencil, click this pencil, one moment. You see that scale around activity comes with the value availability. You can measure it in certain ways. That's defined here. You can close this one. You can close this one. And you see here, this contributes to what values? Is the promptness of this newspaper on the mat. Promptness is calculated by supply promptness of the newspaper company times the availability of the delivery of the paperboy. And so this value promptness is aggregated from two other values. One is the supply promptness that comes with the paper round value proposition, and the availability of the paperboy that comes with the scale round activity. You see? And these two influence the promptness of the value proposition newspaper on the mat. If you go back one moment to close this one, to value propositions, and now go to newspaper on the mat, you see here promptness. And this is the same promptness of 72%. We can now also measure how satisfied the recipient, so in this case the subscribers, are with the delivery with the promptness of the paperboy. And we can do that, for instance, by defining what we call satisfaction intervals. For instance, when the promptness is between 60 and 95%, there is a satisfaction of 10%, which is this 10% here. So if the promptness is 72%, based on this, the satisfaction is 10% only. And if you close this one, and you go to receiver satisfaction, this one is based on, in this case, a weighted average of these factors. We have only one factor here, promptness, and but if you would have multiple ones, you could define weights on them, and it would calculate a weighted average. But this time it just takes this 10%. So the receiver satisfaction here is defined, is calculated as 10%. Close this one. So far we have explained to you how you create the values and how you measure them as far as value creation to the customer is concerned. There is also, by the way, the notion of the value that the Paperboy himself captures as a result of this business model. We will focus on that the next time.